Hello, coming to you from the Garden City of Board Gaming, Omaha, Nebraska. Welcome to the Out of the Dust podcast. I'm your host, horticulturist Bryce. Tied into the popular recurring Out of the Dust geek list on Board Game Geek, the Out of the Dust podcast is a bi-weekly podcast that is focused on re-exploring games we played that we hadn't previously played in a year or more. Why did the game get dusty? Why did you decide to dust it off? How does the game compare to how you remembered it? Are you likely to play it more often in the future? These are the questions that we're interested in examining on Out of the Dust. This week on the podcast, episode 62. On the Out of the Dust segment, I'll bring Shakespeare Out of the Dust, and a contributor will dust off O Zoo le Mio. On the reaction segment, I discuss Asmodee's new spare parts policy. On the What I've Been Playing segment, I review Isle of Cats. On the Obscure Bryce game segment, I review The Way of the Bear. And we wrap up the episode by counting down my top 10 most played games of 2019. I had a chance to bring Shakespeare Out of the Dust recently. Shakespeare is a 2015 game from publisher Astari and designer Hervé Rigal, who also designed the recent Netatonka. I last played it a couple of times, 2 years, 9 months, and 2 days ago when I first learned the game. Looking back, I didn't realize that Shakespeare was that old a game. I thought I had learned it when it first came out, but evidently not. In any event, I first played it with my friend Warren, really liked it, added it to my wishlist, but I haven't ever found the right deal to add it to my collection since then. Fortunately, my BGG Secret Santa had me covered, and I received it as a gift for that occasion. I was able to get it to the table shortly after the holiday as a solo play. I never had a chance to try the solo mode before and found it merely decent. It's not the best solo mode, but not the worst either. Probably something I won't return to solo very often. But I also had a chance for a very enjoyable play with my wife and father-in-law. They both picked it up quickly, and we had a very competitive game. It's a fun logistical puzzle, and as an English major, I enjoy all the literary and Shakespearean references in the game. It's cool building an engine out of Shakespearean characters. I'm hopeful the game will see regular play throughout the year now that it's part of my collection. Let's see what a contributor brought Out of the Dust. Eric Brosius, username Eric Brosius, brought O Zoo le Mio Out of the Dust. O Zoo le Mio is a 2002 Rio Grande game from designer Cornevan Mursel, who has dozens of mostly obscure games to his credit, his most successful being Factory Fun. O Zoo le Mio is one of his better-known ones, though it's racking up only a handful of log plays a month these days. Eric last played it 15 years, 6 months and 3 days ago, and currently rates it a 7 out of 10. He writes, "This one had a thick layer of dust on it. I had played it 4 times in 2003 and 2004, but although it was sitting on my game shelf for the intervening 15 years, I hadn't taken it off once in all that time. In a BGG discussion recently, I mentioned that I enjoy both O Zoo le Mio and Coloretto more than the SDJ-winning Zularetto. Jeff Spear replied that he'd play it with me, and that gave me the incentive to play it. O Zoo le Mio is a quick bidding game about building the most attractive zoo. Players bid for tiles, dominoes, that they arrange to create their zoos. Each tile has 2 separate animal attractions and 2 of 5 possible colors. You can build a better attraction by arranging your tiles so that a single color connects orthogonally across several tiles. Tiles also have walking paths that must connect, and that award extra points for building loops and trees. The components support the scoring effectively. For each source of points, the game includes colored meeples, treeples, and little park benches that you can place in your zoo to indicate how many points you will score. These are moved after each auction to reflect lead changes. One feature of the game is that you start with 8 coins and gain a coin after each round of the game for each tile you have placed. This means every tile has some value to you, if only as a source of coins, and creates an urgency to bid for tiles in the fist auction. If players play reasonably quickly, it moves fast. My first play of this in January was at DuroanCon with Sam and Sarah, and not Jeff, who wasn't there on the day I played it. It was close, with me finishing behind Sam by a margin of 136 to 133. Since Jeff hadn't been able to play, I brought it out to Monday Night Gaming about a week later and played it with Jeff and Dan. This time I edged out Jeff in second by a margin of 138 to 134. Thanks for the contribution, Eric. I never played this one, but it's one I wouldn't mind trying out sometime if the occasion arises. I like tile-laying games and I like the animal theme. Reaction segment time. Publisher Asmodee recently announced a new spare part policy that will require board gamers to approach replacing missing pieces in games they acquire differently than in the past. Previously, like most companies, Asmodee had an email or form to fill out if you acquired a game with a missing piece. So long as they had that piece in stock, they'd mail it out and bam, happy gamer with a complete game. But not anymore. Now, if you find you're missing a piece in a game you acquire, Asmodee requires you to bring the game in full to the store you purchased it from to verify the missing piece, at which point in time the store will request a replacement game from Asmodee to swap out for the customer. After the store receives the replacement game, then you can take your game with the missing piece back for the exchange. In justification of this new policy, Asmodee explains at their website, with the number of quality titles in Asmodee USA's growing library, maintaining an independent stock of elements of each game becomes more difficult. We believe offering the customer service through the store they have purchased the game from will be a better experience. Lots to react to in that statement. First, I am skeptical of the premise. Logically, sure, it might be difficult to keep a stock of replacement parts of these games the more of them you have, but I can't help but think this is Asmodee's way of justifying laziness. They just don't want to do it. Second, if we do accept Asmodee's justification, then they are admitting this is a problem of their own creation by getting too large and expanding their library of games too much. Maybe that should have been a contributing factor when deciding to buy up all of these smaller companies. But finally, that last sentence is just pure nonsense. In what universe is the convoluted process of exchanging an entire game for a single missing piece that they describe a better customer service experience than filling out a simple form online and having the piece delivered to the customer's doorstep? That doesn't make any sense at all. The new policy will cost the customer time, the local store's time and money, and Asmodee itself money as they ship entire games out to replace single missing parts. Alright, I'm going to pause there for now. Next episode I will continue my take on this new policy by examining how other board gamers are reacting and speculating on how the new policy will impact my future buying habits. This week on the What I've Been Playing segment, I'm going to tell you about Isle of Cats, the hit new game freshly fulfilled from Kickstarter from publisher City of Games and designer Frank West, both of City of Kings fame. I'm indifferent to City of Kings, but as a cat lover, the theme of Isle of Cats really caught my attention when the campaign launched, and it was an easy backing decision. Backing it the full deluxe edition with all the extra wooden fish and cat meeples was also an easy decision. The polyomino tile-laying mechanic, a mechanic I have yet to encounter a game featuring that I haven't liked, was just icing on the cake. But would Isle of Cats go down as the latest success of a game featuring this mechanic? Well, here's how it works. Over 5 rounds, players tried to fill their boats with polyomino-shaped cat tiles in the most strategic of ways. After receiving an income of fish every turn, players draft cards. Green basket and boot cards determine turn order and how many cats a player can rescue each turn. Yellow treasure cards help to fill in the odd nooks and crannies of the boats. Blue lesson cards give players opportunities to score endgame objective points. After drafting cards, players will choose which ones to keep by paying the card's fish cost. Rescuing cats consists of discarding basket cards and paying a fish cost to lure the cats into the player's boat. The boats are infested with rat icons, and players lose a point for each one they fail to cover with a cat by the end of the game. In addition, players lose points for not completely filling in any of the 7 rooms on the boat with cats. Besides the lesson cards, players earn points at the end of the game by creating families of cats by positioning cats of the same color adjacent to each other in the boat. This becomes challenging because all new tiles players acquire must be placed adjacent to previously placed ones. This game really works for me. The bonkers story behind the theme of the game is very endearing. None of the mechanics are anything new, which makes the game easy to teach and learn. But the combination of those mechanics creates a fresh experience that is both satisfying and challenging. The fish economy is tight and creates genuinely difficult decisions in regard to hand management. There's a nice tension in the turn order system in trying to rescue the perfect combination of cats in regards to both shape and color before opponents get to them. The whole package together is just delightful. I went all in on the Kickstarter to get their nice deluxe components, and I'm glad I did. The extra quality lends something to the game, though the retail edition is nothing to sneeze at itself. The folding boat player boards are great. The Terraforming Mars-sized deck of cards to draft and the huge quantity of cat tiles to rescue guarantees infinite variability across repeated plays. I think City of Games has a hit here on their hands, and we'll be hearing a lot more about Isle of Cats from a lot of people throughout the entire year. Obscure Bryce game segment time. This week on the podcast, I'm going to tell you about The Way of the Bear, a recent release from Rio Grande and designer trio Frank Critin, Gregoire Larget, and Sebastien Pochon. Frank and Gregoire have a handful of designs together, most notably the fairly recent 8-bit Bach, while Sebastien is best known as the designer of Jaipur. This was an Essen 2019 release, but appears to have completely flown under the radar, being played currently by only about a dozen players a month. Which is not altogether surprising considering Rio Grande's continually baffling stealth marketing strategy. I was completely unaware of the game's existence until I happened to see it in the Rio Grande booth at BGG-Con. It was an attractive-looking game, and I had some time to kill, so I sat down and tried a demo. Here's how it works. Players represent princes of various bear clans, traveling the land, acquiring knowledge of religion, education, military, and commerce in return for erecting sacred bear statues. This knowledge is essential to learning everything a player needs to know to succeed their father as king of their bear clan. The player who acquires 8 knowledge tokens first wins. On a player's turn, they can either draw up more bear statue steles or play a particular combination of steles to claim a knowledge token, which are randomly seated on each spot of the map during setup. When a player draws additional steles, they either take 2 revealed ones from the display or 3 random ones from the draw bag. When a player plays steles to claim a knowledge token, they place steles from their stock to the display that match the steles on adjacent spaces, and then play a stele of a different color on the spot they want to take the knowledge token from. So the game becomes a race game as players try to accumulate the most efficient combination of steles to acquire 8 knowledge tokens first. Quite often the game ends in a tie as multiple players claim their 8th token on the same turn, in which case the total number of gold coin icons depicted on the collected tokens breaks the tie. The Rio Grande demoer made a big deal for some reason that this game was inspired by color theory, as players are essentially mixing colors together to create a new color and claim a token. This inspiration doesn't come across at all, either mechanically or thematically, so I'm not sure why the demoer, or the designers for that matter, were fixated on it. That's probably a good thing actually, as the theme is unusual enough that the game can stand alone on that. There's a similarly themed game as this one from Simon called Way of the Panda that I hope no one confuses with Way of the Bear, because the two are nothing alike mechanically. Way of the Panda is a fairly heavy worker placement game, while Way of the Bear is a very straightforward and elegant design. It's a very accessible game and a fun one. The pace is perfect and the race game objective lends tension to the game from beginning to end. I can't help but think that if a company that was more capable in matters of marketing and promotion was behind it, Way of the Bear might have taken off before now and attained hit status. It's got the right theme and mechanics for that, but it seems destined for obscurity instead. After demoing it in the Rio Grande room, I picked up a copy from the infamous Rio Grande booth for half price and have been having a successful time introducing it to others locally. Not a lot of people are registered owners of the game at BGG, but it is readily available for a very reasonable $35 at the major online stores. So if the game sounds interesting to anyone, it's one I think most will be pleased with the results of taking a chance on. This episode of the podcast, I'm going to continue my review of 2019 with a countdown of my top 10 most played games of 2019. Number 10, with 14 plays, Nautilion. One of the things I really appreciate about the Oniverse series of games is how differently each one feels from the others, and Nautilion feels completely fresh. The dice placement mechanism works well, and the game is a genuine challenge. It's become my second favorite Oniverse game over the course of the year. Number 9, with 14 plays, Drop It! I learned this at a convention as a play-to-win selection and bought it during an Amazon sale shortly afterwards. This has become a family game hit and one of my go-to demo games at events attended by non-gamers. Number 8, with 14 plays, Crocodile. I finally acquired my own board from the most recent Mayday Kickstarter, and it's turned out to be a great investment. My entire family loves it, and I've even gotten to use the carrying case when I